Calhoun.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. Those requirements, chapter 231 of law 1975, been satisfied by publication of said notice in the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster, and by filing a copy with the municipal clerk. Everybody, please join me in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go right to public participation on agenda items. Tonight is a workshop from 6 to 7. It's a workshop, no action is anticipated to take no action during this workshop session. Is anybody from the public wish to be heard on any of the agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move right to new business. Review of the Neptune City Purchasing Manual. Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, you all received a copy of a draft form of a purchasing manual for the borough. This is something on file given to all department heads. It'll also be kept on file just in case the state comes down or auditor comes to do any reviews and they ask to see a purchasing manual, so I'm implementing this. It will be a resolution, and if no one has any edits or comments at any time, I'll add a resolution on for the September 23rd meeting.
And you'd like to
Again, yeah.
keep going right on with the...
And I know that we had some questions from council members about the YouTube channel. I did receive, just got my equipment in on Friday. So now I'm putting everything together and we'll get it all put together and working, and should have the camera ready for our YouTube channel for the September 23rd meeting as well. And that is it for me.
Okay, thank you. Participatory budgeting. Mr. Calhoun?
Yes, sir. So everyone got in their email the synopsis of the committee meeting that I had on 9/3. Laid out a timeline for completion, like different dates that we're going to use to implement the program. So it's pretty cut and dry. It was a great meeting. Everybody participated. There was one absence, and we had to bring Steve Johnsberger up to speed. But other than that, everyone in attendance was really excited for the program. They offered a lot of suggestions on how to go about and make it successful that I hadn't even thought of, and that's all those ideas are included here in the synopsis. So happy to entertain any questions, or if not, it's pretty much how it's going to roll out.
I have a question, more so a comment. I don't remember this governing body ever approving a resolution, this committee to be actually formed. Normally when a committee is formed, we vote on it as a group before a committee actually meets. And I don't know if any of these people were properly vetted or background checks were done. I mean, I know most of the names, so I don't have an issue, but nonetheless, as policy that we usually follow here, we didn't seem to do it this time around. So I don't think we should be meeting with committees when a committee has not been formally voted on by this governing body. So I don't quite know how that kind of slipped through here.
I was not under the impression we had to do it. That's in the budget. Business administrator was present, and I defer to him as to whether or not we actually needed that, or actually I deferred to Dan to see if we needed to do a resolution for that.
So, yeah, because I actually had the same question. The committee was formed, and it's, excuse me if you don't mind me jumping in.
No, it's fine.
And I got the email you sent me, I guess, yesterday.
Correct.
That you have a committee, and you've met, and you've outlined, and you've done multiple things, but that committee was never, it was never brought as a resolution in front of the governing body and voted on to be a committee representing the borough.
Okay.
And as if you follow any of the other guidelines and policies and employment manual, which I don't know if everybody's ever read them, but we have a tendency of not seeming to be following the way the process is under our employee manual, and it is that members of the committees are to be vetted in background checks and things of that nature. So until last night, I didn't know you created this committee and you guys been meeting. Mr. Russell, I didn't know that you guys were having meetings with. So, I mean, unless there's a resolution somewhere that I know I missed like one day this year, I think, but.
So question was made aware of the resolution. For committee-wise, as I was going through stuff, it wasn't a standing committee, so that is my fault that it was not brought to the council. So I take full responsibility of that. I did speak to the attorney over the weekend, where she advised that we should do a resolution for the setting up of the policy of the participatory budgeting, even though it has been approved in the budget. Background checks, it's not so much for background checks, it's more for employees of the borough. And in the ordinance, it actually really only states for the Recreation Commission, even though, as I am supposed to review the employee manual, we're putting that already in there that all committees, for background checks.
I was under the impression that the way it reads in the borough ordinance is that all committees.
I've only found it for the Recreation Committee.
We'll have to
For
look
put
at
on that one,
because-
because we were already making the change. I know we talked about it.
We've talked about it.
We are gonna implement it.
And we're talking about the participatory budgeting. Like I said, there was never like established exactly how it was going to be set up and how it was going to be run until I received an email from you and the committee. And I have to say it again, I mean, I still am the mayor of Neptune City. You know, some of you may not like that, but I still am the mayor, so I do would appreciate the respect of still being the mayor, of being informed prior to us and everything. You put it in front of us and here, this is what we're doing. Now,
No.
and I understand you.
That said, you know, that certainly wasn't meant to be a slight to your position and authority of the borough. So, had I known that that was what the procedure was, I would have deferred to the BA, and the BA would have told me, hey, we've got to do it this way, but that said, we can rectify that during regular council meeting, I guess.
Right, I understand it's, as the administrator said, it was approved in the budget, but there's other things that are approved in the budget, and we don't just, there's other processes even after it's approved in the budget, we make purchase orders, and we make everybody account for everything, so just because it was in the budget, it doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want.
I actually agree with the mayor and Councilman Wardell that we definitely need to have resolution determining who the members are on the committee and voting for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is I'll check the ordinance again, because I remember reading that it's, members of the committee, because you're talking about a committee that's going to, and contrary to what my opinion is about it, and we'll get that later, about children, minors, that you're going to want to incorporate into this budget. It's really something that you have to be very cautious about who you put on committees and going and talking to children and things of that nature.
Although we did approve like the Drug Alliance, so the fingerprinting and everything is happening later. So if anybody comes back, they would just not be on the committee. But so I think that we could approve the committee even tonight by voice vote if our attorney says that that's okay to amend the agenda to add a resolution.
And I'm sure you're probably right, you can do that, but here we are again, this is the cart before the horse again, and, it's not that hard if you ask, believe it or not. I've been here long enough that I do know what's going on, I know government at this point, after, spending some time learning how government works and learning the policies and procedures in Neptune City. Let's ask some questions and make sure that we're doing the right thing. That's what I'm concerned with, make sure that everybody knows what's going on. Like I said, you created a committee, I understand the budget was passed with the money in there, but the committee was formed, you guys met, I'm assuming more than one time.
No, once.
You only met once?
Only once.
You created a full outline and plan on how it's gonna go, you set dates and everything, and the rest of the governing body has, if you weren't a part of that, we didn't know anything until last night. At least I didn't, I know that, I wasn't informed of anything, any meeting that was going to take
Well, I think
place.
we've covered the fact that you weren't aware of it, and
Right.
I've already admitted that
I
we
did,
can do it another way, so we'll rectify it during regular meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor?
not right now, no.
One of the problems with
I'm
you said,
sorry, we're in a workshop, Mr. Woodell, at the end, you can have something you can speak.
okay,
You passed the
well, one of the
one
problems that you
part,
have
yeah.
is you want public opinion before we know what you're talking about.
well, that's
maybe you
what,
wanna
that's a workshop session.
All right.
Well, yeah, that's what it's
Simple.
listed on there,
I hear you.
but you know, no action is gonna be taken during this
I understand.
meeting. This is just for us to all sit and discuss, have conversation. Okay. Anyone else?
Anything else?
Greg, can you clarify where we stand? I mean, do we need a reso for the committee and the program?
So I
or just
checked
the
in under,
committee, or-
I wasn't aware of the committee either. I assume the committee's made up of citizens?
Correct.
Okay, so we should have a resolution establishing the committee, and a resolution, to the extent it's prepared or ready for presentation, a resolution, establishing whatever procedures are being done for this very budget. I mean, from a legal standpoint, the ultimate decision of what to spend the money on is at the state. I mean, everything under that, whether we talk to votes, whatever that process is basically.
Well, that's not
Public
necessarily true, because this is this is, at the end, it's really what you want other people to come and tell you what.
At the end of the day, will be projects that the public brings in, and they will be vetted for viability by the VA before any of them are brought before final. Yeah.
Look, I guess my point is that you pass a resolution setting forth rules for this program, right? Whatever they're going to be, vetted by Brian, vetted, gone through a voting process, whatever they are. It's just a promise you're making to your constituents, right? You could, at the next meeting, rescind that by resolution and cancel the whole thing, if it didn't, right? So, the ultimate legal authority to spend that money lies at this dais. The vote to ultimately spend that money, approve that on a bill list or anything else. So that, legally, that's where it stands. The participatory budgeting is under that. It's basically an administrative process you're going through to determine what that vote will be. So anything under that is really just a promise you're making to constituents via resolution. Just as Brian, found it prudent to pass a resolution and put forth the process because it is public funds. And, I saw the process outlined and I didn't read it in detail. We just put that into a resolution and then state as a statement of intention of the entire governing body. Because at the end of the day, the entire governing body has to make that promise because the entire governing body is going to vote on whatever it is to pay. So that's, I believe the procedure from here is, to the extent the committee or whatever is ready, you need a resolution to establish that committee to continue work or, process in the administrative process, and then you need a resolution setting forth what exactly the participatory budgeting is going to be. We're going to, right, so we're going to solicit ideas for 30 days, here's the deadline. Whatever the deadlines of the program are, publish that in the newspaper, I would assume, and do your public notices, public place, and then follow that procedure, and at the end of the day, it's gonna come back here for a vote to actually pay the bill, to spend the money for whatever it is from the budget. Okay. So that's from a legal standpoint. What you do in the process under that, it's really just your choice, whatever you want to do. There's no legal parameters surrounding this. It's just your promise to your constituents is the way I guess concerned.
Okay.
Well, your committee meetings looked like it was very positive and productive.
It did, and in fact, the business administrator and I had a conversation about actually raising the age from 14 to 16, and it was one of the committee members that said, well, wait a minute, you're not gonna capture anybody that's still enrolled at Woodrow Wilson School if you do it at 16. So it really should be back to 14, which is what I was originally putting in law. I said, if everybody here thinks that's a great idea, then that's what we ought to do, and that's why I was put forth in the committee that that's what we're gonna go back to.
Well, we do have 6-year-olds that live in town, not just at Woodrow Wilson. We do have high school students that live in town that are of that age too. So it wouldn't process because the number of 14-year-olds at Woodrow Wilson by November is pretty young. I mean, you usually turn 14 in your 8th grade year, not before your
Well,
8th grade
then you
year.
won't get any 14-year-olds, I guess.
The whole civic engagement with the whole program seems very invaluable. I just like to commend you for taking the lead on this.
Well, that's the thing that I think everyone is missing. It's the civic engagement piece. That it's not about spending the money or having a project that we knew ahead of time was coming in or finding a grant to pay for it. It's about engaging the public and getting them interested in their local government. So that's what the program's all about.
I think that's a good
And
thing.
again, Mr. Calhoun, I've said from day one, I don't necessarily have a problem with the intent. I have a problem with the process.
Sure.
I just don't believe we should dedicate tax dollars from the residents on something that we don't even know what it's gonna be yet. You know, it's just like, you know, we're gonna do a open public, meetings, or, open space, or CDBG grant tonight, I think it's Mount County. You know, and there's a whole process that's gonna go through, there's gonna be a presentation, we're gonna talk about it, there's gonna be a presentation to the county, there's then a public meeting on it, and then there's a meeting on the money to spend on it. There's a whole process in that, but we'll know before we put the money out, you know, before we take it from taxpayers and dedicate it to something. I've always said, we know what we're doing, we know we're spending that money on. And that's just, like I said, I don't have a problem with civic engagement. I just have a problem with the process of participatory budgeting, and I finally got it down. But
I was on
there's a reason why
TV.
there's only one other town, in the entire state that does this. You know, and I've said it before, I just hope we don't try to emulate that town, you know, to implement this program in this manner. So,
Fair?
Anyone else? Okay, rehabilitation, designation, discussion. Ms. Renee?
Yes, at this point, everybody's heard from our borough planner twice publicly. He's met with our committee a couple times. The committee has met separately a couple times. Had very thorough discussions about, the proposals that he's presented to all of us, when he came here for his public meeting, and also when he was here for the budget meeting. And, we have an excellent opportunity here that is, very rare, that I think we should take advantage of. We've been designated as an economic opportunity zone, the whole entire town, which is actually kind of special, because not every town gets that, and usually when they do, they get certain sections of town. So we have an opportunity to take advantage of the possibility of obtaining some grants that we otherwise wouldn't be able to have. But in order to take advantage of those grants, as our borough planner has stated, that we have to have a plan. If we don't have a plan, then we can't apply for any grants. And we can't legally make any negotiations with developers without a plan. Once we have a plan, you know, we can start to talk about negotiations with some developers. We'll bring some developers in, have them take a look. Two separate things here. One is the rehabilitation plan for the whole town. As we know, we have some crumbling infrastructure. Our sewage pipes are very, very old. You know, we have some flooding issues. We've talked about this for years. People just say, oh, it's always been that way, and just kind of let it go. But a lot of residents would like to see these issues taken care of. In order to do so, as the mayor has said in the past, it's gonna take a lot of money. It's gonna take millions of dollars. You know, I've heard it in the past, it's gonna take millions of dollars. So if we wanna take care of this without having to skyrocket taxes, then again, there's the opportunity for grants here that could help us to take care of the infrastructure. And, we don't necessarily need to do both, I don't think, with the rehabilitation plan and the redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan specifically for the town center. But we do have an opportunity with the rehabilitation plan, to take a look at, even with our Highway 35 and our county roads and the whole scope of the whole town. You know, what needs to be taken care of, where we have some blighted areas, where we could, do the solar farm on the property over at, you know, Old East Coast Ice, maybe put some solar on top of our community buildings. And the plan is a great idea. We did designate, $20,000 towards the rehabilitation plan. Well, as far as the, proposals go from the planner, it's $18,000 for the rehabilitation plan and $18,000 for the redevelopment plan, two separate things. We allotted for $40,000 in our budget. Again, two separate things. But I'm not so sure we need to, like the mayor said, we put the cart before the horse with the redevelopment plan of the town center until we actually have a whole scope of the town. Some different pockets that need to be redeveloped. And And, so my recommendation as the committee, maybe not the committee as a whole, but as the committee to go ahead with the rehabilitation plan, to start with that, see how that goes, let the, land use board take a look things over, make approvals, and then decide if we wanna go ahead with a redevelopment plan at that time. But with the rehabilitation plan, we still have the ability to apply for some grants that we wouldn't otherwise have. So, those would be my questions, my recommendations, if anybody else has questions.
Anyone else?
Well, since I'll start. I am one of the members of the committee that is the dissenting opinion of either one of these proposals facing forward. I think there's just far too many questions. I think this is too broad. I don't think we know what the size of it is. I don't think we have a plan going forward. I don't see an end game. And I said at the beginning, I don't see an end game. All I've really heard so far is pretty much the idea of like a town center. You know, create a town center as per our master plan. One, I argue that what delineates an area that is a town center, as I said, I mean, the shopping center, stop shopping there, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars redoing their building. It looks very nice over there. They put new shrubbery, they put in new landscaping, they changed the facade, it looks very nice over there. The building across the street, which is where this all kind of started, where the old Two Guys is, they too also put improvements to the facade where the post office is, the pizzeria, they also have made improvements over there. They made improvements on the other side of the stores. I mean, we have a litany of different stores in the world. I argue that's a thriving area as it is right now. To deem something as a need, an area of redevelopment or rehabilitation, I worry what that does to the perception of our town. I think if you put an area as in need of rehabilitation or redevelopment, I think it will immediately hurt the value of our property. I don't think it's one, especially if you put something in a redevelopment, because redevelopment comes with condemnation. And it says so clearly in the plan we read that can be done to use of eminent domain. I don't think anybody up here is in fan, I'm not accusing anybody wanting to use eminent domain, so I want to make that clear, but the possibility of that even be on the table scares me just a bit. Cost also worries me, but I'm going to touch on it in a little while. I've also heard the word economic opportunity zone. I've heard that a few times, yet nobody seems to exactly explain what that means.
Actually, it's not called economic opportunity zone.
It's
It's called just an opportunity zone.
Okay, well, an opportunity zone. I don't know what grants we would even qualify for, or be able to, so it seems to me we're going into this in the hope that we get grants we may not get at all, because the competition would be so high that we wouldn't be considered in such a small community. I also have issue with the cost of this. There's a lot of things that I have issue with. One of the price of this is really kind of bothering me. The $18,000 that we put forth, or going to put forth for either one of these plans, from what I understand, is an exorbitant amount of money. I looked at our planner's hourly rate. I believe it was $150 was their hourly rate. So if you take $18,000 and you divide that by 150, that means they're charges for 120 hours worth of work. One of it is 3 full weeks worth. Do you think that anybody at that company spent 3 full weeks putting together a plan? Anybody think this takes 3 full weeks to put together?
Well, if I could jump in a little bit,
Please.
Mary, as you read through it, this is on the rehabilitation. Pages are numbered. I'm gonna put my glasses on. It's actually like the 4th page under where it says tasks. So part of this is tasks, as part of phase 1, which obviously the first phase. It says, anticipate the following schedule of events, the resolution and ordinance as tasks performed by ARH. Task 1 is the governing body adopts a resolution directing the planning board to conduct a preliminary investigation. So in actuality, the first task is for this governing body is to send this to the land use board to do that phase 1 investigation, which they wouldn't charge that. Our planner for the land use board, it would not be $18,000. It would be substantially less than that. So that's some ARH. They give us a proposal to do phase 1, but in the same paper, it's supposed to go to the land use board or planning board, Ohio planning board, then to do the phase one. So that's something that needs to be looked at immediately, because I'd rather pay and I did check with the land use planner, and they said that it would be substantially less money to do for phase one for them versus ARH, so. I wanna look at that first.
And that is what the resolution states. I think you're looking at the proposal, not the resolution. It also says that it goes to the land use board. That would be the
Right, but there's a resolution, I don't have, there's a resolution where?
for tonight.
That's the statute.
In the workshop notes.
Right, but what I'm concerned is ARH is giving us a proposal for $18,000, but they're not actually, they're not doing this stuff.
It's all combined, correct.
Well,
With the land use board. The land use board has to do.
The land use board planner will do the
Correct.
phase one.
Yes.
So what's $18,000 for?
Whatever we get billed for from the land use board attorney, or planner. And whatever the ARH bills us.
But ARH in here says that phase one's gonna cost $18,100.
In their proposal.
Yeah, but it needs to go to the planning board first, so it would be combined.
But it doesn't say that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That's, so I'm just trying to clarify. I mean, I know this is, ARH has given us a proposal of $18,000, and they're not the planning, they're not the zoning, land use board planner.
How about
So,
if we read the resolution that is in our workshop packet for tonight? Directing the Neptune City Land Use Board, this is all it is, they're directing them to do a study. Directing the Neptune City Land Use Board to conduct an investigation to determine whether or not the Borough of Neptune City in its entirety, or any part or parts thereof, qualifies as an area in need of rehabilitation pursuant to the New Jersey Local Redevelopment and Housing Law. Whereas there has existed and persists in the Borough of Neptune City, Monmouth County, New Jersey, conditions of deterioration in housing, commercial, and industrial installations, public services and facilities, and other physical components and supports of community life from forces which are amenable to correction and amelioration by the concerted effort of responsible public bodies, and without this public effort are not likely to be corrected or ameliorated by private effort. Kind of like the flooding issue per se, the sewage pipes that are leaking. Whereas the New Jersey,
sewage pipes are leaking.
or possibly leaking.
Okay, well, there's a big difference.
Possibly leaking.
The Board of Health lets us know if you have to.
Okay. Whereas the New Jersey legislature has provided a mechanism for municipalities to address such conditions by enacting the local redevelopment and housing law, which law provides municipalities with certain tools and powers necessary to address such conditions in order to prevent further deterioration and promote the overall development of the community. And whereas Section 14 of the redevelopment law permits municipalities to declare an area to be in need of rehabilitation of its governing body determines that such area exhibits certain specific conditions, and whereas Section 14 of the redevelopment law further provides that where warranted by consideration of the overall conditions and requirements of the community, a finding of need for rehabilitation may extend to the entire area of a municipality. And whereas the first step in the rehabilitation area process is for the municipal governing body to direct the municipal planning board to undertake an investigation to determine if an area meets the statutory criteria under which it may be declared to be in need of rehabilitation pursuant to Section 14 of the redevelopment law. And whereas, as permitted under such and such, Neptune City has a combined land use board, and whereas it is expressly recognized that rehabilitation area designation does not confer on the borough the power of eminent domain otherwise granted under the redevelopment law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Borough Council of the Borough of Neptune City hereby directs the Neptune City Land Use Board to conduct the necessary investigations and undertake the steps necessary to determine whether or not the Borough of Neptune City, in its entirety or any parts thereof, meets the statutory criteria for an area in need of rehabilitation pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A 12A through 14. Be it further resolved that the Borough Council herewith authorizes ARH Associates, licensed professional planners in the state of New Jersey, and the Borough's municipal planner to assist the Land Use Board with this investigation. Be it further resolved that the Land Use board shall, upon completion of the investigation and public hearing related thereto, submit its findings and recommendations to the governing body in the form of a resolution with supportive documentation. So this is just the first phase, going over to bring the proposal to the land use board, not rushing into anything, just the first phase.
Yeah, I appreciate you reading the whole thing, I mean, it's necessary, but.
Well, you obviously didn't read it, so
That-
you thought that would be necessary for me to talk about it.
Well, no, I read it, but I read your proposal from your planner, that was $18,000. And, I've heard responsible budgeting and, all this other, and when you have a proposal for $18,000, they wanna get pretty close to that. And they wanna make their money, that's what they're out there to do, so, according to the resolution, this goes to the land use board plan, not ARH, so.
And they might not even find any areas in need of redevelopment.
Well, not redevelopment,
I mean,
rehabilitation,
rehabilitation,
it's not too hard in Neptune City. I've read the criteria, it's pretty much everywhere in Neptune City meets one of the criteria. We're an old town, it's not hard to meet those criteria. I mean, it's a certain percentage of the town, houses over 50 years old. Well, that's pretty much almost every house in Neptune City, other than.
It's our discretion though, I mean, we don't have to go after every house that's 50 years old.
No, when you declare, you can't pick one place for rehabilitation. You're gonna pick areas and land. I know you wouldn't pick one house, but, it's a very broad brush, that's all,
Just the study, so we know where we are, and then afterwards, we are able to negotiate with developers, and if, the developer wants to come in, they could, we can negotiate that they pay for that. In the negotiation, it could be a possibility that they would, it happens a lot in other towns, that they do the back pay for the study that was already done.
I'm familiar how it works. It's just, again, if this gets designated as even an area of rehabilitation, and when you do like the whole town, it's kind of, I understand it seems like, you want to see where you are with everything. I kind of like Neptune City, I don't think the entire town needs to have rehabilitation and redevelopment. Yeah, there's some areas that are better than others, and some areas that could use some improvement, and I think a lot of people, owners and business owners and property owners, if they can do improvements, they do. Rehabilitation allows, if we find an area of rehabilitation, as you said, we can bring in developers who can purchase, bring them in and purchase that property from us for rehabilitation.
It's really tax incentives. So like, for example, if your house in the neighborhood is designated as a rehabilitation zone, you put a deck on your house and you get a 5-year abatement for that improvement.
Right.
It basically encourages people, any people, it doesn't matter residential, commercial, to improve their properties and you give them tax breaks. Now redevelopment is the latter, what you're talking about. That gives developers rights to come in and do various things to a particular area. Rehabilitation is usually broader.
Right, but rehabilitation allows a developer to come in and negotiate purchase of a property and need rehabilitation, correct? That's the same, it allows
Well,
developers.
yeah, I mean, a developer can negotiate any property.
But we can't negotiate unless we have a plan, legally.
No, I understand that, I'm just, I want to make sure that everybody understands exactly is to declare areas in need of redevelopment also.
Correct.
So even though the plan is, go through the entire town for rehabilitation, and then it also, part of that plan, one of the tasks is to find what areas are in need of redevelopment also. So you start out with one and end with the other.
But let me ask you this, so if we go down the road of rehabilitation, determine where we are and what is not possible, and let's assume that 2 areas come back, these areas are in need of redevelopment, let's talk about the town center. It's up to us as to whether or not we actually go down that road, or we can say no to that portion of it, correct?
Certainly.
Okay.
That would be step 2. So this is you guys keep saying phase denotes like there's some kind of project and stuff. It's these steps. So step 1 is determining what areas could be an area of rehabilitation or redevelopment. That's what these 2 resolutions say. The next step after that, the planning will come to you and you decide what area it will be. You introduce an ordinance to designate a particular area in need of either, or none for that matter. If you determine to do that, the ordinance is introduced, it goes back to the planning board for them to review and comment the area that the governing body picked, and then comes back here for adoption. Now you have an area. Step 3 is a plan. If you choose to go with the redevelopment area, right, rehab area doesn't necessarily have a plan. It could just be the tax incentives or abatements. But if you go redevelopment, then a redevelopment throws out the zoning in that area. And then you must come up with a plan, and then you pay a planner to develop step 3, which is the development plan, which is brought here, presented, introduced, then sent to the planning board again for review and comment. It comes back here for adoption. Now you have an area of town that's designated as an area in your development with a plan, which is essentially a 20 to 30 to 40 page document that describes the zoning and what can be built in the area you originally designated in step 2. Are we following me so far? Go down. It's very esoteric.
It's very lengthy process.
So 3, right, so the planning board comments at each step of that process. Once you get the plan, then that's the step at which you can negotiate with redevelopers, actually build a project that they bring you, present here, that's in accordance with that plan. And then you would enter into a specific agreement that outlines when they're gonna do it, how they're gonna do it, when they're gonna get their site approvals and things like that. Notwithstanding the developer's agreement, that takes care of all their zoning obligations. They would have to go to the planning board for site approval depending on the project that they develop, which is step 6. So that's the entire legal process from beginning to end. In terms of the opportunity zone, it's essentially a vehicle by which developers that are in potentially an opportunity zone can get money if you have all those 6 steps and they qualify under the opportunity zone rules. And there is little money at this moment in time from the state in the opportunity zones. However, the federal government has put some money into private banking institutions that are administering through opportunity zones. Long story short, it really doesn't concern you. So you have a project, somebody's going to build it, and they're looking for money to do that. It makes it more likely that they pick your town, but it's really towards the more end of the process that it becomes even a factor if you got through the first step, essentially. And that's essentially the whole process. So this would be step 1, to look into your town, see whether any of the areas in the town at all are redevelopment or rehabilitation. Rehabilitation, as the mayor alluded to, is a low bar. It's pretty much just the housing stock sold or the infrastructure sold. The redevelopment criteria, because it involves a lot more than the rehab plan, you get to it, it has higher standards. So economic problems, blight, other statutory criteria beyond just everything here is kind of old, it should be built, or we should encourage people to rebuild it. The standard is higher. So that's why you have 2 resolutions. In terms of art, rehabilitation is one thing and redevelopment is another, even though in the vernacular when we all talk about it, we talk about the same thing. When you read a newspaper, in the law, it's a term in terms of art, just so you have everything separate and clear.
And again, down the road after, step 7, once, if we get to that point with redevelopment plan, negotiations with developers and private, public, and, entities that could help us take care of some of the costs with some of the crumbling infrastructure, if we need a pumping station to take care of the flooding issue, just some possibilities that are out there that we wouldn't have otherwise if we didn't have a plan.
That is correct. When you go, you have the opportunity to get the developer to pay for certain things. How big of a scale? And of course, every developer wants the biggest scale they can possibly get, because again, as we've said before, they're not coming here because they like us. They're going to come if they see profit. They want to make money, which is, I don't have a problem with that. I like making money too. And it's just something. This is a very lengthy process. I will not be here at the end of this 7-step process doesn't take 4 months. I can tell you that right now.
I mean, it's a minimum of 6 months. I mean,
Yeah.
it could take 10 years.
Without it, because you could have litigation. This is a broad brush over the entire town. And I know that word condemnation is in there. Oh, we've never used it. But the only thing I can urge you to do, whatever the governing body decides, whatever you vote on, is that in your resolution and your ordinances, you do it without condemnation.
Is
Um,
in the
You're
resolution.
required to say it.
The
I
resolution
understand
says
that. Well,
non-condemnation.
because this is a very lengthy and costly process for the borough, and we're using taxpayers' money, so that's what we have to, we're taking, and it is a risk, you never know what's gonna happen. Like I said, many years ago, there was a redevelopment process that went on here in Neptune City, and it cost the borough a large amount of tax dollars, and the area ended up getting denied when it got to the courts. We were able to redevelop a couple of parcels since then, individually with some of the property owners, but a couple of our business owners are still to this day sour that they spent $40,000, $50,000 fighting the borough because we put them in an area of redevelopment, and which that also doesn't really help your property value when you go in area of redevelopment sometimes either. So I just, that's just something I want everyone to think of when you're making these decisions. It's a long-term process. It's a lot of money that you're spending and a large risk. But that's what I have to say to you when you vote on whatever decision you make.
Both of the resolutions state non-condemnation. There is no condemnation when it comes to rehabilitation plans. The redevelopment plan does specifically state non-condemnation, but as far as my recommendation would be that we don't even go to that step at this point. We just start with the rehabilitation plan proposal. Basically, just a proposal to put forth to the board at this point.
I just had an issue when I look at the map of the area that's in deemed in need of possible redevelopment here. I mean, the majority of these are homes. Majority is homes, and I have a, wait, let me finish. I happen to know that the homes that are on Third Avenue are like less than 15 years old, that area there. I mean, anybody who's lived at Casino remembers when it was basically Ed Lott and the Cornfield family was the only house on that entire block there. And they redeveloped that into, I believe, 8 like really nice family homes there. And I'm sure they would not be real thrilled with the idea that their homes would fall underneath this here. It's a little concern of mine as well. I'm worried what the perception of this would be publicly if we deem these areas an areas in need of rehabilitation or redevelopment. I fear what it does to property value in this town here. I fear that it would scare people off from wanting to buy in this town. And I think it'd be a hard time selling a home if you're in an area that's deemed in need of rehabilitation. I've stated from the beginning, I think this is far too broad. I don't think there's a plan. I don't see an end game at all. I don't understand exactly what it is we hope to accomplish by doing this. Right? If I had a better feeling, we said, hey, with the old East Coast Ice Building, I'd like to see X, Y, and Z. And that's what we're gonna focus on, just that. I can get on board with that. But when I say like, how do you run the town? Really, if we see something, that worries me, a little bit it does. And the price worries me after I also spoke with the land use board planner and they were shocked at the price that exploded in this plan here. And I'm also a little worried about the firm that we hired. ARH was just recently let go by Long Branch as their planner, and I want to get along here for non-performance. Long Branch is a far bigger city than ours with a lot more money. If they're not doing the job well in Long Branch, what makes them think they're going to work hard for us? So I'm a little concerned about who we're using, what we're doing. I think they see Neptune City and they see dollar signs, and that's it. That's all they see, is dollar signs, all right? So this is my concern here. I said it's too broad, it's too.
Anyone else?
Is there any way to know what the money spent years ago on the redevelopment plan?
They'd have to,
We spent a lot of money.
I would say it was probably, at the time the land use board was done and the attorneys and the lawsuits, because like you said, there were a few, I do recall a few businesses, who spent a fortune.
Right.
Because, just because a business, I don't wanna pick a particular business, but, some businesses operate and, they're family businesses and they've been operating in Neptune City for, a long time, and, they're a profitable business, and, it provides for that family or maybe 2 or 3 other employees, but it may not be the most beautiful building, it may not be fancy, and, there's always, somebody can probably do something with that property more than what they're doing. Like I look at houses in Neptune City and I go, wow, that'd be a great house if it had a second story on it. well, that person can't afford to put a second story on. Well, same with a business, you know, it'd be great if that business was completely redone and it looked beautiful. Unfortunately, that business couldn't afford to do that and stay in business. So, you know, that's my concern about when we do this, that we're, you know, and that person, I mean, I'm in a business, if that happened to me, I wouldn't pick up and, I couldn't just pick up and leave, I would have to fight, you know, if I was in an area of redevelopment and I knew they had somebody, you know, they want to turn my property in area of redevelopment, because redevelopment, turning area into redevelopment is basically what it is. You know, the developers were then like looking at that property, like, what can we do there? And it was a pretty big redevelopment plan. And at that point, it only included, I think, like 3 residential homes in, I think, that whole fort. Were you in it?
Actually,
You
I was sectioned out.
You were, yeah, because you guys had fairly new houses, but there were only 3 or 4 single-family homes, and that went on quite a while. And cost the borough, not only cost the borough a lot of money, but it cost our residents, some of the families, residents, homeowners, and then businesses, which many are still here. It cost them, I know one business particularly cost them like $50,000 to fight and go to court, and this went on for a long time. Again, I just want to make sure that everybody understands. It sounds great. We got, you know, rehabilitation, redevelopment is going to be great. Not great, not always great for everybody. So, you know, again, I don't know how bad some people think Neptune City is. We need to get in and, you know, get rid of some stuff. And I still go back to, I think, right about now we would have a beautiful, low impact rateable on 3rd and Union, but that's just my opinion. You know, meanwhile, 2 years later, it's still not built. And I don't see that being anything more than that for quite some time. But again, just, you know,
You said in the past that usually the developer comes to the town. Is that how that redevelopment happened?
no, there was a couple tail end of it.
Okay.
There were a couple areas that were really in need of redevelopment. There were a couple of spots, and there's no doubt nobody would argue that the Charlene Motel, and many of you have no idea what the Charlene Motel really was. Many of us did. We really knew what was really going on there and what was in it, and so that was in there. But we couldn't spot zone that one piece, so we had to, I guess, and this was probably 15, 17, 18, maybe almost 20 years ago. You know, they took an area in need of redevelopment, and just an area in need of redevelopment. I think it was a couple years, and we had public meetings. We had to do it at the community center because it wasn't big enough. You know, we had hundreds of people coming, and it ended up not happening. And then that's when I became mayor, I took a different approach, and I went individually to the property owners and worked with them individually to become a developer of their own parcel. So this is something that you might want to think about. If there's something you have particularly in mind, if you go into a redevelopment agreement, you can jump in anytime if I'm wrong. A piece of property that somebody already owns, and I've gone through this before with you guys. You know, we're going to take perfect example, the old Charlene Motel. A developer who bought it ended up not developing it because of all the lawsuits, and the area was not in redevelopment. He actually sold the parcel rather cheap too. Administrator, well, I think former administrator. And you know, we talked to them about them being a partnership with the borough, and them come in as being a developer of their own property. We did a redevelopment agreement. Obviously, it said no, not in condemnation because it was their own property. They were in agreement on everything, and then we worked it was 5-year tax, not a abatement, or the pilot program, and we brought it on, the taxes on, for 5 years, it was, until they got to 100% from when they first got their CO. So, that was one particular project, and it worked out perfectly. We got rid of Charlene Motel, we got some beautiful Rabels, beautiful houses, and we did basically the same thing with, Fifth Avenue with Memorial and Steiner Avenue, that parcel there. That's the owner of the property. We got together and we did a public-private partnership type thing, and that worked very well.
So it sounds to me like you've had some success and some failures with the town going about rehabilitation and revitalization, right, redevelopment.
Well,
So we've been there before. It sounds like we have invested taxpayer dollars into it. We've lost money, you said. And some of them were good experiences and they ended well, and the town is really, benefiting from it, and some of them were losses.
yeah, I'm gonna defend myself for a little bit. I haven't had a failure yet, so both my redevelopment
Right,
plans
because you came in at the end of that,
yeah,
right?
the two that I was in charge of
Right.
are good to go. Yeah, you can spend a lot of money, and again, it then, a developer puts money in escrow, and then like every time the attorneys and the planners meet and everything, everybody's paid out of the developer's escrow, not out of taxpayers' dollars.
Right.
So, we're gambling that you can get a developer down the road to pick up who knows how much. And in litigation, I think the only ones who really made out were the attorneys last time.
Okay.
They made out like a bandit. They all made money. The borough ended up with nothing special, and and cost the taxpayers a lot of money.
Right.
And again, everybody went into it with good intentions, but it was a very broad brush that they went in with. So I just believe in a little finer tuned brush. I know for a fact that, the largest parcel in the redevelopment, although it's Third and Union, the largest parcel in that whole thing right there is, it's not Third and Union, it's actually Third and 35, which is owned by Rock Properties. Mr. Rick Raccasano, looks like, I believe he may be the largest taxpayer in town. I can assure you, Rick's not real happy that we're throwing property in the area that needs redevelopment or rehabilitation. Because he does have a pretty nice parcel over there. He spends a lot of money to keep that place the way it is, and make it look the way it is, and the sidewalks, and the planting the bushes, and cutting the trees, and,
If the property doesn't fall into the criteria, it's not gonna be touched anyway.
well, I know, we say that, but.
And the other thing too is that, Mr. Cicino had said that apparently, no, I was gonna say, to alleviate some of Councilman Wardell's concern, it seems like Mr. Cicino's property is one of the newer homes in town, and he wasn't touched by that initiative, so that might alleviate some concern about the newer homes that are in that area.
That's only part of my concern. The other part of my concern is how you're gonna attract a developer if you don't have enough area for them to develop. I mean, they want large tracts of land. They don't want a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. They're gonna want a lot because it's not profitable.
Well, we don't know what they're gonna want because we haven't asked the question yet.
Right, but we also don't know what we want. We haven't said that.
That's
Nobody
why
knows.
we need to see the plan.
But see,
Well,
we
we
need
have
to
to-
successfully allow them to pay people to do this. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we've done some,
Well,
I have not been a part of any, but I've lived here a long time to see some successful, revitalizations done without paying a planner to do so. We denoted $40,000 for somebody to give us a plan.
Yeah, but it sounds like we've done this before, not this sitting council, but the council
Right.
has actually gone down this road and had successes and failures.
No, I think the road we're going down
And
has
we
kind of failed.
have spent a lot of tax dollars,
You don't have
money,
crystal ball, you don't
probably
imagine.
more than this.
I
Those
understand that.
intentions were always good too. I'm sure the prior person, had all of the best interests of every taxpayer and did intend to raise it.
I don't think anybody here has,
That this is not malintented. This
don't
is
think
not
it
the
is.
first time that it's come up probably. It sounds like in the history here, we have done this before.
right, and I don't think anybody up here has mountain, that's not what I'm saying. I'm fearful of moving forward without really having an idea of what our end goal is. What is it we hope to accomplish with this plan here? other, you know, it just seems to me, I hear so many different things thrown out about this plan, and there's two different plans to look at, and they're very different. One has a 5-year tax abatement, one's got a 30-year tax abatement. One uses the word, I know we said we'll put in there, you know, the word combination does just scare people, and Joe will just see it in there. I know we'll have a resolution moving forward. I don't see Neptune City as being an area that is in need of such great overhaul right now. That is such a bad place to live in that we need to worry about how can we fix it up. I think that we would be better suited trying to more focus on specific areas one at a time as opposed to painting a broad brush and kind of, you know, figuring out, okay, well, we know about that, let's go hit this area up now too. You know, as the mayor said, you know, I don't think you're gonna have the business owners as excited about this as other people up here seem to be. I don't think anybody up here is trying to actually go talk to our property business owners in town. I don't know. The only ones everybody spoke to are Mr. Monsanto, you know, who's not very happy with us. He doesn't like this, thinks it's a bad idea. He thinks we handled Third Avenue wrong. And I mean, what does that mean? I mean, he only, you know, develops property all over this, you know, eastern, you know, the man's making millions of dollars doing this for a living. Probably knows what he's doing. He's telling you this isn't the way to go. And if anybody would benefit from the town redeveloping, it'd be somebody who owns property. He doesn't like the way it's going. So most of the professionals that I've gone to don't seem to be in support of this. And it scares me, the scale in which we're getting ourselves into. And I'm afraid we get ourselves into, I know we can say, oh, we can get out at any time. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if we have got so much money already taking this, we're almost starting to term top committee. Right? And if anybody knows what that means, I have so much money in there, I gotta see this through to the end, otherwise it looks like a complete loss. All right? Again, I don't have a crystal ball. You're right, and I don't know. I could be 100% wrong, but I gotta stick to my convictions and feel that this is not the way we want to go. It just isn't. I feel it's kind of rushed, and I feel it really doesn't have any end game specifically planned out. That's just the way I feel about this.
Right, and I think the intention with using the borough planner was to use somebody else's view of Neptune City. We're all here, not for the fun of it, because it's not fun. We're here because we love the town and we want to see things that are great for the town. Not that that means the town's not great already. We want to see it thrive and continue into the next generation for our children.
Right.
So we see different ways.
We
of
want the same
going
thing.
about
I just
it.
don't know if we see about going the same
thing.
thing. That's
Sounds like we've done these things before. Some were successes, some were failures, some had developers spending more money, some were borough tax dollars. So we're not in uncharted ground. We're just kind of saying, you know what, I guess the master plan's been around a while, we still haven't looked at it. Why don't we just start again? Start with a rehab, see what they say. Maybe they say that, you know what, you really don't have anything here. You're right, there's only these little tiny pockets, and, you know, you don't need to go to the next step. Let's start focusing on little areas. And that's what we do,
Well-
right? We listen to our professionals because they should know better than us.
Right, and I'm gonna ask in about 30 seconds to adjourn the meeting, but again, I want to stress the importance of the wide brush. You know, we do know that there is one particular area, and that area that has really stemmed all of this. Okay, it's the Third and Union property. The old two guys, those of you who have been here long enough to shop at two guys. It is an empty building. The retail is left. It has a deed restriction on it. I think there's definitely some positive things that happen there. And I just wish this governing body would address that piece of property instead of, you know, let's get that big brush out. You know, that's something we could do, maybe meet with the owners again. I could meet with them, we could talk to them, maybe talk to Rick Racasano and address that property. Instead of worrying about, you know, somebody's house on, you know, Riverdale Avenue or Summerlin Avenue or any of that, you know, let's address that. We know that problem's there, but let's address it.
I think you do both. You have meetings with those guys. Up in Thomas.
I actually met with them about a month ago, Neptune City LLC, and they're just begging us to release that deed restriction. And I said, you know, the majority of the public does not want that.
I did.
We have one person who brought a
Well,
comment.
no, well, I mean, and what about 6 other people against that? I mean, do we take a public poll?
Everybody else that.
I don't know
Yeah,
if that's
it's a
necessarily.
little, listen, the in favor of and the against are pretty mixed.
Yeah.
It's just, a lot of people don't publicly come to the meetings, and, you know, they're not asked to come to the meetings and say anything about it. But that is a piece of property that this governing body wants to make a real difference and and really work with borough businesses, that's the perfect opportunity to meet with them. And that's the perfect opportunity to make a difference right away, because that is not gonna get any better anytime soon. So with that being said, I need a motion to adjourn so we can go into our next meeting. So,
Aye.
now we go to the regular meeting.